Hello, everyone. We have arrived at the end of the semester. As I mentioned in our last lecture, this is not the end of the unit. We will continue on once we get back from and begin second semester. We'll take a look at the presidencies of Washington and Adams and Jefferson, who is going to be our focus today. It's going to be a much shorter lecture than last time. We went pretty in depth with Hamilton. But today we're going to be looking at, again, the other side of the coin. Hamilton represented the Federalist stance, this idea that the federal government should become more powerful, things like implied powers. He even thought that the future of America should be focused on things like manufacturing. Jefferson's the exact opposite in every single way. Now, I admire a lot about Jefferson and his ideals. We'll talk about his presidency later on. I think he did make a lot of mistakes as president, but I think ultimately, if you had to decide between, who was right, Hamilton or Jefferson, that's a tough decision. I don't know that there necessarily is a right, but the two men represent two completely opposite ends of the spectrum, okay? So today we're going to be taking a look at Jefferson's ideals and what he thought was the best for the future of America. So let's go ahead and dive in, get your notes out, get them ready. And this will actually be our only slide today. So like I said, it's going to go a lot quicker than normal here. So let's talk about Jefferson, which of course, very influential founding father. There's a reason that he has his face up on Mount Rushmore. Not only the author of the Declaration of Independence, one of our early presidents, but just very, very influential overall. Now, when the federal government had been formed, we had mentioned that Jefferson was out of the country, actually. He was an ambassador. He was in Europe. He was in France in particular at the time. And that'll actually come back up later in our lecture. But, he was not around for all the debates on the Constitution, but he will return and serve in Washington's first administration as Secretary of State. Now, Secretary of State is a very, very powerful position. They are the head diplomat, and they are very influential, especially at this time where communication is extremely slow to decide, diplomacy between nations. I mean, Jefferson visiting foreign nations like England, France, it falls on him for a lot of the policy of the United States as Secretary of State. Now, at the same time he is Secretary of State, Hamilton is the Secretary of the Treasury. And as I mentioned in the introduction, the two men could not have disagreed more. Really every major issue, the two men completely disagree upon. Jefferson, even as a person, really doesn't like Hamilton. He thinks that he has just almost an obsession with making America kind of a royalist nation. With Hamilton, perhaps I didn't go enough into it with Hamilton, who's, he does admire the British system of not only government, but just he admires the strength of Britain. Jefferson remembers the spirit of '76 and the fact that Britain has been the enemy, and that we broke off from Britain for a reason. And if we're trying to garner closer ties to Britain, perhaps we need to rethink our reasoning. So, along with especially James Madison, who will be Jefferson's right-hand man, they are really going to push against Hamilton's vision of America, and they are going to, as I stated, become kind of the leaders of really the first political party, the Democratic Republican Party, and they will face off against Hamilton's Federalists throughout the years, and we'll see by really the third, fourth administration that the Federalists are starting to die out. But anyways, Jefferson represents kind of the founding of the other side there of the political spectrum. Now, his beliefs on governments, perhaps out of all, and I think personally, Jefferson was very different. I cannot think of a better Renaissance man than Thomas Jefferson, meaning he dabbled in a lot. If you ever go to his home Monticello in Virginia, you really get a glimpse of this, where I mean, he studied everything. He studied science. He studied language, history, religion. I mean, the man truly could not get enough. He was a sponge, and I think because he was so well rounded, he especially in terms of history, I think he understood the importance of what they were doing in establishing a republic. He is, more so than any other founding father, focused on building up this republic and making it as strong as possible, and believing in republicanism, which at the root of it is about people being represented in the government, about people having a voice in their government. And I think he truly believes that more so than any other of the founding fathers. So what we're going to see here is less about, it's really kind of a more focus on individualism than it is about kind of a nationwide push to make stronger. He believed that you had to, if America was going to be great, individuals had to be great. And he was going to push policies that would help individuals become great and thrive off of their hard work. So, very, very individually focused politician. Now, as Hamilton is focused on the cities and building up manufacturing, Jefferson is the opposite. He's going to be focused on an agrarian policy, which of course would benefit many of the southern states. He himself being a southerner from Virginia, Jefferson is going to focus a lot of the government policies, both as Secretary of State and later on as the third president of the United States, towards a more agrarian nation. He thought that was the future of America, is to feed ourselves and the world. He wanted America to become the breadbasket of the world, and so a very much focus on agrarian lifestyle, which he believed was completely synonymous with frankly that Republican ideal of people having working hard and representing themselves in the government. He saw that as a Republican virtue. Jefferson has a very virtuous feeling towards America. That frankly the yeoman farmer, and this is a term I want you to write down. The yeoman farmer is the ideal American to Jefferson, one who is a hard worker that plants his own farmland and reaps the reward of his own hard work. He is not dependent on other people, and he believed that farmers were the most virtuous of all people. I want to read you a direct quote from Jefferson himself, and this, again, a direct quote here. "Cultivators of the earth are the most valuable citizens. They are the most vigorous, the most independent, the most virtuous, and they are tied to their country and wedded to its liberty and interests by the most lasting of bonds." What Jefferson's saying is, you want people to buy into an America, they have to believe in that, and they have to have some ties to the soil. So, he's pushing this idea of yeoman farmers, frugal and self-reliant, as being the future of America. We have to have people believe in themselves, work hard, and therefore they will believe in the land and the nation. Now, at the time, the majority of the people are farmers, and they're going to recognize Jefferson as kind of being more in tune with them. And so I think early on, of the two men, Hamilton and Jefferson, I think Jefferson was much more popular among American citizens at the time. If you're truly a democracy, a democratic society, then farmers should have the greatest voice. So Jefferson was quite popular. But don't take Jefferson's message here as being anti-modern either. He understood that America would have to have a place in the world, and that's he saw that farming, though, could benefit the entire country and internationally as well by using new technology in farming, and to be able to mass produce agrarian products and sell those throughout the world. So he's not completely isolationist here. He does think that farming can, America truly can be the breadbasket of the world. Now, moving down to threats to the republic, I want to identify Jefferson, and this is a term you should write down. Jefferson is what we call a strict a strict constructionalist. And what I mean by that is he believed that any power that is not listed in the Constitution does not belong to the government, that the government can only do things that are in the Constitution. And the reason I list this under threats to the republic is that, while Hamilton is pushing the, things like the necessary and proper clause to establish things like the national bank, Jefferson sees that as a threat to the republic, that this is how tyranny happens. This is how governments, federal governments, overtake state governments. This is how this is how you develop a much more inflated federal system, is that you basically don't limit their power. And so he saw that as a threat to the republic, that, if you can, through some legalistic jargon, convince people that the federal government has more abilities than are actually listed, then he said America's doomed. I think today, if you were to look at the current state of American politics, I think he'd probably just throw up everywhere, honestly. It has changed quite dramatically from this very simplistic view of government. The moral virtues, I think, of that yeoman farmer, he, on the opposite side of that coin, I think he saw true dangers in manufacturing. Whereas Hamilton's pushing manufacturing, Jefferson saw it as actually dangerous. And part of this is from what he has actually experienced himself. Remember, I said during the Constitutional Convention, Jefferson's over in Europe, and he is actually, touring Europe and seeing how the industrialization of Europe has affected the cities in Europe. And frankly, what he is seeing is, are the cities becoming, poorer because of manufacturing, that factories are paying people less than what they deserve, and that it's really destroying those countries. And while there may be overall more money coming in, it's just going to the wealthy. It's not going to actual, individual workers. And so he saw that as a threat to the republic. He actually saw manufacturing as a threat to the future of America. And so again, returning to this idea that an agrarian lifestyle and the virtuous yeoman farmer is going to be the only thing that will actually not only grow this nation in terms of land size, but will actually preserve the republic. Once you start getting into business interests, you will lose your moral standing, and I think he was right in that. I think we've lost a lot of that, especially over the last 100 years. Now, I will say that one problem with this ideology is that as the population grows, you need more farmland. All right. So what this really proposes is the beginnings of what will become known as manifest destiny. Part of the problem with Jefferson's ideas is that we have a very limited amount of space, and once all the farmland is claimed, you have to add on, and you just take this theory and continue to extend it. Where does it stop? And eventually this will lead us to become an imperialistic nation. But, it's not, it wasn't just happenstance that it's going to be under the presidency of Jefferson that we add the Louisiana Purchase. Okay? A big part of Jefferson's reasoning here, which, again, I'm not a big fan of Jefferson the president. Granted, I think the Louisiana Purchase is one of the best deals that ever has been struck by the American government. But I think Jefferson idealistically would actually disagree with his own policy move there, because there's nowhere written in the Constitution that you can actually purchase new land. So therefore, shouldn't have been able to do it, right? But Jefferson sees the benefits outweighing the negatives there, because if you truly want this to become an agrarian nation, you got to have a lot of farmland. And the Louisiana Purchase guaranteed that, at least for the next few generations. So anyways, that kind of wraps up threats to the republic. Moving on to the political impact. Overall, even today we have this argument among Republicans and Democrats as to how much government is good. All right. I mean, how much government should we have? How much government should, how much power should the federal government have? How much power should the state governments have? I mean, we're literally seeing this today, even with the pandemic, the coronavirus. I mean, the federal government kind of took a back seat, and Trump allowed, a lot of the states to set their own policies, which I'm not here to say whether that's right or wrong. But, you had Democrats arguing that the federal government needed to take a stronger stand, and you had Republicans arguing that you can leave it up to the states because, the virus is affecting different parts of the country differently. So, even today we have this state versus federal argument. All right. This, if Jefferson had to pick a side, as you can imagine, he is going to be more so on kind of the states' side. He believed that states should still be, kind of in control of their own destiny, and that we should really bolster and strengthen local and state governments, and the federal government should be, in his own words, this is a direct quote, rigorously frugal and simple. He does not think that the government should be, in business. He thinks that it should be there to, keep the law, but it is not there to promote things like business and corporations. Eliminate the debt, eliminate as many taxes as you can, and basically even reduce the military. One of the first things Jefferson does is he basically gets rid of the Navy when he comes in, which again, not necessarily the best move, Jefferson. Come on, man. But again, I like the visionary. I like the Renaissance Thomas Jefferson, the Renaissance man. In practice, though, too idealistic, and his presidency is going to suffer a lot of major crises because he was too idealistic in his stance, not realistic enough. I'm going to wrap it up there. Guys, we are done. You have completed semester number 1 of IB History. Congratulations to you. We will pick back up with this unit next time and take a look at George Washington and the first president of the United States. Thank you so much for paying attention. And as always, let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer your questions. I know this is not an ideal format to deliver this information, so please do not hesitate to contact me via either comment in the video or email me directly. Thank you so much. Bye.